What's up, everybody? Welcome to Talk Wrestling here on NoDQ.com and, of course, the NoDQ YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching, as you did last week. Last week's show is getting some hits. It's getting some interesting comments, I gotta say, based on my reviews of the shows. So hopefully you guys will like this week's show. It's more of the same. We've got not a review, but we've got questions regarding SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and of course the upcoming show Night of Champions. Both WWE Fan Site and Always Josh and you have similar questions, so I'll go ahead and address them both. WWE Fan Site asks, what was your overall opinion on NXT Brooklyn and SummerSlam, and how would you rate Sasha Banks versus Bayley? And Always Josh and his first question is, what would you say was the best match from last weekend WWE events? I would say Bayley versus Sasha's at the top. Well, guys, I would have to agree. The best match of both nights between TakeOver and SummerSlam was the NXT Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Bayley. As I mentioned on Talk Wrestling last week, it wasn't as good as Charlotte and Natalya from a year and a half or so ago, but it was still very, 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 very good. Both women worked their asses off. Both women did a tremendous job of point, counterpoint, selling, and reversals, and different holds, and different moves, and it was very well executed, I thought. And I especially like the finish, the big Bayley to belly at the end after the reverse Frankensteiner or Hurricane Rana, whatever you want to call it. And I also like the ending where all four horsewomen, with those two as well as Charlotte and Becky Lynch, coming out and giving the big sign and showing that they are the top women in the industry right now. And there's a very big reason why, because they're just that fucking good. Excuse my language. I don't swear very much on the show anymore, but they are just awesome. And they really showed me something. And between those two and then Charlotte and Natalya from a year and a half ago, the NXT women's division is definitely the place for women's wrestling. Much more so than Knockouts. Much more so than, you know, a lot of places. I have access to a lot of the indies like you guys do, but I think NXT's women's division is just freaking phenomenal. And before I get to Always Josh in his second question, Devin Shuren 296, who do you think Bayley is going to defend her title against first? I haven't seen a whole lot of NXT the last couple weeks as far as TV goes, but I gotta believe they're going to go with the person that won at Brooklyn in the Fatal 4-Way, and that was, I believe, Emma. Emma's a solid #1 contender for the championship. She and Bayley have had beef before. When Emma first turned bad, she was kind of picking on Bayley as a little goody two-shoes babyface. It's a natural progression for her to be the first challenger. Either her or Dana Brooke. One of those two, I believe, is going to be the first one to step up and take on Bayley. Always Josh and you also wants to know, with Rollins now the WWE World Heavyweight Champ and United States Champ, what do you think will happen to the U.S. title at Night of Champions? Based on what I've seen, it looks like they're going to have both championships be defended. And I'll talk more about this when I do the show with Aaron as far as the preview show. But it's Aaron's theory, and it's my agreement that he's willing to lose both titles. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to September 20th. But they got to find a way to get the belts off of him and make him an even bigger whiner and crybaby than he already has been. And that's the way to do it, have him lose both titles at Night of Champions. This is from Conic46. Hey Jeff, all the way from Forth Mountain County, Wexford, Ireland. My question to you is, what is your opinion on the finish to the fantastic match between Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker? Personally, I thought it was stupid and a more thought-out finish should have been done. Well, we've talked ad nauseam about it the last couple weeks on this channel, haven't we? Honestly, Conic, it was very poorly done. This finish, I don't know what in the world Vince McMahon or Triple H or Kevin Dunn or whoever's in charge of television production and creative and things like that was thinking, but Undertaker looked bad, Brock looked bad, The referee looked bad. The timekeeper looked bad. It was just not done well at all. Just a big at all of us. It was very bad. Matt will let music. Do you think the finish of the Lesnar Undertaker match ended up hurting both guys instead of protecting them, like I guess they were trying to do? I don't know. It was odd in my opinion. It definitely hurt both guys. It didn't protect them at all. The idea of protecting somebody in a match, in a finish, is designed where neither one of them looks bad going in or coming out of it. The problem with this is Undertaker's looked bad from the minute he stepped back into the ring at Battleground when he cost Lesnar the championship, low blowed him, and then tombstoned him with the head about this far off the mat. And again, he did it again and again and again. Undertaker has looked bad at this whole revisiting of this feud. Lesnar looked like he didn't know what he was doing because he let go of the Kimura at SummerSlam when the bell rang, even though the referee didn't ring the bell. So it makes him look bad too. Let's see. This is from Zupper Rookie on Instagram. Hey Jeff, where do you see the storyline with Reigns, Ambrose, and the Wyatt family going? I enjoyed the match at SummerSlam. Personally, I think it's time to start building toward an Ambrose heel turn with Dean turning on Roman. What do you think? Thanks. Well, we saw Strowman come out on Raw after SummerSlam and help and join the Wyatt family. So I have not seen this week's Raw because I've been busy with Dylan's school stuff, unfortunately. It's on DVR. But I got to think that they're going to have somebody team up with Reigns and Ambrose to counteract the three new members, the new member of the Wyatt family, as well as the other two existing members. So maybe Eric Rowan comes back. Maybe they add somebody else to the mix. They were talking about having Sting do that, but now Sting's at Night of Champions against the champion Rollins. So it's very interesting. I don't know. I think the feud has still gas in the tank. So as long as there's gas in the tank, the car can keep going. So we'll see. This is from at 9mm heater. I'm going to say millimeter because it says mm. I'm going millimeter. 9mm heater. Howdy, Jeff. Was Kurt Hennig leading the WWF 1996 the worst thing he could have done for his career as far as having a chance at the heavyweight championship from one of the two main companies? I think he could have been a close third alongside Brett and Shawn in that time frame. He probably made way better money in WCW, but he never won the championship in either company. I think it's a shame that Kurt Hennig, Roddy Piper, and Scott Hall didn't carry the big gold from WWF to WCW at some point. That question's all over the place, isn't it? You got to talk about Kurt Hennig, you talk about Piper and Hall too. I don't know if Kurt Hennig leaving the WWF for WCW was detrimental to his career. I think that, like you said, he made way more money in WCW than he would have in the WWF had he stayed. I think the WWF did not see him as a viable number 3 guy behind Brett and Shawn at the time. I think they saw him as a color commentator, much like they did with Randy Savage toward the end. And Kurt wanted to wrestle, so he went to WCW and he wrestled. He wrestled the entire time he was there in WCW, up until the very end, where the whole Powers That Be story went nowhere. But and then he came back to WWF as Mr. Perfect again for a few months before he got released. So, and then he sadly only passed away a few months after that. It is a shame that Hennig and Piper and Scott never was the world champion, but Scott Hall not winning the world championship was more by the fact that he was never pushed as the guy in either company. He was a top babyface and a top heel in the WWF, but he was never the guy. In WCW, he was always one of the outsiders. He was always not quite up there with Hogan or Nash in the NWO or Savage in the NWO. He was always the tag team specialist, the U.S. champion, the mid-card guy. He was never the guy, and it happened. With Piper, I did not watch back then, so it's hard for me to. Hindsight's 20/20, kids. It always is. But I think for me, Roddy Piper winning the championship back then would have been huge against Hogan and would have made for a tremendous WrestleMania 2. Like if Hogan had lost to Piper between WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2, and then the main event for WrestleMania 2 was the big final epic showdown between Hogan and Piper, as opposed to that horrible boxing match between Hogan and Piper and T, and then the horrible cage match with Hogan and Bundy. You make more dollars on that. That's as simple as that. That's how it works. Alright, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Talk Wrestling. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We will see you all next time.